Hi there. I would just like to say, before you watch the main video, I'd just like to issue a disclaimer and say that whenever I do an interview or a round table with other guests, or when I'm part of a round table or part of someone else's interview, I'd just like to say that with the people that I do interviews and roundtables with, there will always be something that I resonate with about that person. I might resonate with them completely or just partially, but there will always be a connection between myself and that person. I wouldn't be on a round table or an interview with someone that I didn't have that connection with. But having said that, that doesn't mean that whatever the other people say that are on that round table or on that interview, whatever they say, that doesn't mean I agree every single word they say. It doesn't mean that I resonate with everything that they are saying. It doesn't mean that I'm endorsing every word that they say. And I'm sure they feel the same way about me. So I just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer before you see the main video. But please enjoy the video. Thank you for listening. Hi everyone, welcome to this little mini roundtable interview stroke chat with me, Magenta Pixie, Jen McCarty and Becky Parkes. So we thought we would get together, and it was this kind of came together organically. We all had similar ideas at the same time, didn't we? It wasn't sort of one of us that decided this. We all together at different times thought we would discuss basically discernment. There's such a lot of confusion going on right now in the lightworker, truth and spiritual communities regarding who is who's telling the truth, who is not telling the truth, who is controlled opposition, who isn't controlled opposition, is there anyone who is controlled opposition? And the fact that whenever we get together and do any kind of round table or interview, we are sometimes discredited in the eyes of others by the guests that we share that round table with, because some people decide that we are okay, but our guests are not, and vice versa. And all of us as spiritual, leaders, YouTubers, content creators, guides, whatever you want to call us, we've all actually been warned about one another in the last couple of months. And well, that's actually been going on longer, but it's really ramped up lately. And I think the reason for that is there's so much going on. This deluge, this flood of information coming from all areas, hijacking everywhere. But there's also a lot of high level truth and love and assistance running through this hijacking, all merged together. And discernment has never been more important, crucial than it is now. So ladies, any comments on that?
Jen?
Oh, I'd just like to say thank you so much, Magenta, for hosting us. And it's such a wonderful opportunity for us to come together and talk about this, because like me and you are good friends, and we chat about this and we share sort of like updates about what's going on, but it's actually nice to take it out of that context and make it public, like what we're talking about. And yeah, I'm just feeling a little bit frustrated at the moment with the extent to which this is happening. And I do wonder if sometimes at the root of it is a bit of jealousy and ego from other truthers who don't want people to listen to anyone other than themselves. And it's like, have you actually done the work on yourself? You've got a platform, you're guiding people, but there's real shadow stuff coming up. And so I personally would be like really getting red flags around those people that are flagging up the people all the time, because to me it's like, we're here to spread love, and we're here to uplift each other. And oftentimes when you come out with a message like that, it can be very, very the opposite of expansion, and it can be very, very constrictive, and it can cause us to shut down. And someone wrote a comment on one of my posts the other day, and they said, a spiritual leader, when they speak, or a spiritual teacher, you will just feel comfort in the vibration of their voice, and you will come to your center and you will experience that expansion. And I just think it's so important that everyone uses their own discernment when they're being faced with new people. Is that person affecting your heart? Is that person helping your consciousness expand, helping your heart expand? Are you getting goosebumps? Are you feeling an emotional resonance with that message? And if you are, then I genuinely believe you've made a soul contract to receive that message at that time from that person. And I don't think anybody really has the right to go around and discredit that, because that's a personal soul agreement that you have made with that particular way shower. I myself wouldn't dream of exposing anyone or using my platform to say about this person and that person, because to me that seems very, very low vibrational, and it seems very like creating a separation, the energy of separation, and it isn't actually creating unity, which is what this is all about. So yeah, I think I've opened up, you know, lots of interesting points. If anyone else would like to jump in.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that not only in the sort of work that we do, but in every walk of life, we are used to making snap decisions and judgments on people, and those are coming from, you know, we decide whether something is good or bad, right or wrong, whether someone's beautiful or ugly, and we do that from a point of ego mind-based, with the sort of mind control and parameters that we've been trained to think through, and they don't really serve us very well. It's really important to try and connect with your inner self, to connect with your higher self, and start to try and intuit what does feel right or wrong. Talking about the difference between judgment and discernment. Judgment is where we make our snap decisions, and it's very much mind-based, and it's very much from a place of, you know, I'm right and you're wrong, and I, you know, that's putting yourself above someone else, and there's just no need to do that with the work that we're doing. Absolutely everyone has got something to bring to the table. Absolutely everyone has got skills and qualities. People are strong, you know, some people are strong in one area, some people are stronger in another area. We don't need to, there's room for everyone. There's room for everyone to share their own little bit of knowledge or experience or understandings on the matter, and then that can perhaps help one or two people or hundreds or thousands of people. That's fine. There's just no need to try and put others down because either you don't agree with them or you just don't want to share some sort of platform or limelight with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I'll try and mute myself when you're speaking, so I've got people outside shouting. I just wanted to say that you said, Jen, about you would have no intention of you know, flagging people, of outing someone. You wouldn't want to do that. And I agree with you. When I first started to channel publicly, when I made the very first video for YouTube, the Nine said to me really early on, right from that first video, they didn't say don't, they basically advised me in their way that they communicate not to ever publicly run down other light workers, that you are a team, and it's very, very important to hold the frequency for that team, even if they may say something that you don't agree with. So I listened to them and I took their advice, and if there was anything I would hear that another starseed or light worker had said that I disagreed with, I would say to the Nine, I'd speak to them. I wouldn't come on a video and say, right, so-and-so just said this, what a load of rubbish. You know, I'd speak to the Nine and I'd say, you know, and they would show me the reason why that person held that thought. Now, sometimes, in fact, I would say over 90% of the time, the thought was actually an accurate thought coming from an accurate seed point, as in the premise of the way that they were thinking, but they hadn't explained it in a certain way, or so many people had misunderstood it, or they'd used not the wrong word. There's no wrong word, but the nine have always taught me to be very, very careful about the words that I use to describe that particular frequency. And my father did this his whole life, so I learned from him. He would actually stand in front of the family and take like sometimes 20 minutes to say like 3 sentences, because he would stop and wait for the absolute right word. Used to drive my mother up the wall. She would moan, "Your father, why can't he just say it?" But I'd sit there as a little girl and just think, "Daddy's amazing." And I would start to do it. So my whole life, I've tried to look for the right word. So by the time the 9 came in to teach me this, it was even more important that I found the right word. So often, a lot of these spiritual teachers would just be using words that are not the most aligned for the frequency that they were trying to describe. And then there were a few others that had had experiences, traumatic experiences in their past, and those traumatic experiences were clouding. So in all of my sort of journey of since being online 12 years ago and meeting all these different or seeing all these different spiritual teachers, I've had suspicions about the odd person, because I've thought, okay, that didn't quite resonate with me, and I've spoken to the 9 about them. So, but even in that, even when there are individuals who are giving information that could be taken the wrong way very easily, giving information that simply isn't true but they think it is, in all of that, in 12 years, I had only ever come across one person who's genuinely part of the deep state cabal and has genuinely controlled opposition. And I was aware of this person 2 or 3 years ago. Even then, I didn't come on and out this person and make a video and say, right, everyone, this person's saying they're a spiritual teacher, but actually they're deep state. I didn't do that because I was told not to by the 9, even when they actually are a controlled opposition. It's not my place to tell everyone. That's their discernment. That's their discernment to discover this for themselves. Only recently, in the last 3 weeks, have I actually discussed this person as a potential without actually naming this person's name, but giving clues, because I'm still not going to do that, but I'm giving clues for those who can understand the clues, simply because this person has a potential thread now into the political scene, and because this person is publicly condemning that which is true, such as, for example, the letter that comes after
P.
Is it?
It is.
Yes, sorry, I've lost my thread of the alphabet. I won't edit that. That's funny, that is. Yeah, the letter that comes after P, this person is actually really sort of saying that is a derogatory source. So because that person is saying that that's a dark, source, as a spiritual teacher with a big following, only then did I come in to counteract that as a shield to the source that I know holds truth. So I personally would not be outing anyone. And I've also come across other spiritual teachers that are not necessarily saying things that are fully in truth, described in the best way that they can be, but the person is either thinks they are or has been traumatized, or some teachers will actually talk about something as if it's happened in real life when it's actually happened in a very deep lucid dream, and those teachers actually think it's real. So that in all this time, only one, and the 9 actually discussed this sort of infighting within the lightworker community. They discussed this in one of my books, Black Box Program, The Rose Gold Flame as Antidote, and they actually said that yes, there is hijacking in the spiritual community and in the religious communities and in the truth communities. That's true. However, it's nowhere near as widespread as people think it is. And the reason for that is because the infighting that happens naturally by all the different people trying to defend their position and their truth, they are doing the cabal's job for them. So they don't need to throw in a load of controlled opposition. This is the past. It's not quite like that so much now. Things are in a better place. But, you know, going back a little while, the cabal could just look at the truth community and lightworker community and think, well, we don't really need to send any controlled operatives in there because they're all fighting anyway. They're all in a state of division. They're doing the job for us. Now, since this whole sort of March 2020 pathogen and shutdown and all of that, now we are starting to come together despite all this attacks and infighting and lack of discernment and spiritual teachers calling one another out. Despite that, there is more unity. And what I see is, and Jen is quite significant in that. Well, I know you are too, and so am I. But I'm talking about the light workers and the starseeds coming together with the truthers. So we've got people who are experts in finance and science and medicine coming together with people that are experts as channels and psychics. And that I see more of, which is wonderful, but that is creating this lack of discernment, because you've got somebody who completely agrees with the financial line of things or the scientific line of things, but thinks the spiritual is complete nonsense. So when they see perhaps me talking with someone like, say, Charlie Ward, for example, they're going to think, well, Charlie, why have you got or you, Jen, why have you got this fluffy spiritual woo-woo person on your grounded round table to discuss finance? But the people who are sort of more in the spiritual movement are going to think, well, Magenta, Jen, Becky, why are you talking to someone who isn't really in the lightworker community and is talking about all this sort of wheeling and dealing in finance? So they're not able to open themselves up to these different subjects, these different topics. And of course, this is a reset on every level. This is an ascension process and an upgrade on every level. We must come together to represent our communities. Do you girls sort of, do you agree with that? Do you resonate with any of that?
I certainly do. In connecting consciousness, we have people join who they don't have to be interested in every aspect. There's just so many different aspects to becoming awake and aware. Some people are just interested in UFOs or some alien experiences. Some are just interested in the financial system or geopolitics. Some are interested in spiritual development. Some are just becoming awake and aware because of what's going on with coronavirus and the lockdown and what's actually happening. Others are starting to hear about paedophilia and the hugely widespread child abuse and human trafficking and becoming, horrendously shocked by that. There's just so many different aspects, and they are actually connected. As we, as humanity evolves, we become more aware to what is actually going on in the world, and we are able to see through the programming. It's like a sort of a filtering osmosis effect. The control is not so tight now, that the mesh is not so tight, and people are seeing through the holes in the mesh, and they're starting to sort of see outside the box. They're starting to see outside of the confines of their mind control and see beyond what's really happening in the 3D realm, and understanding that there are other dimensions, there are other realms that are having influence on life here on Earth. And it's a massive awakening, and people can approach it from all different angles. So this is why we are now having roundtables and joint talks with people who are, experts on one particular aspect of this, or one or two or five particular aspects of this, and it's good to put everything into context. So yeah, I completely agree on that.
Jen?
Yeah, I got really inspired by a lot of what you said there, Magenta, and basically what I feel is though, you know, the letter after P is bringing us together, and it is kind of like merging politics and spirituality, and it's so appropriate. It's so appropriate right now as we reclaim our world back from the deep state, from the darkness. We have to have this merge, and I think that we've all been sort of doing our thing, and we've been having our platforms, and we've been kind of like, you know, banging our spiritual drums or whatever. But since March 2020, when the event happened, when the event started, it's brought us all together. And what I feel is, though, when we all found out about what was going on with the children, when we found out about the deep underground military bases and about adrenochrome, I didn't know. This was all new to me around March. And so I feel like I got red pilled, like so intensely. And I went down those rabbit holes prior to everyone else. And it was so disturbing, but I knew that once everyone found out about the amount of children that were getting abducted every year, and what was actually happening with those, particularly dark-skinned children, that would ultimately bring us together as a collective, and as teachers, and as way showers. So what I love, and I loved what you said, Magenta, at the beginning, when you said, like, we're a team, you know, and we are a team. All of us are a team, and we've all signed up to, you know, to take on this role or this mantle of way shower or leader, and respect where respect is due. Like, we don't get paid, we don't get acknowledgement. In fact, we get rejected, we get denied, we get shunned, we get publicly brutalized. I mean, I've been persecuted to the highest level within my town just because I'm speaking of my support for the Trump administration. Like, I don't do this for popularity, I do this because I cannot not do this, and I would rather die than not be a voice for the children. And I think that is what is unifying all of us. Like, it is that. It's like, it ends on our watch, you know. It can't carry on. We can't carry on. We cannot ascend. We're on an ascension trajectory, and there's no way we can ascend unless we face the deepest, darkest shadow of our collective humanity. And that is what's going on at the moment. And as Magenta says, there's a merge happening since COVID, since 2020, March 2020, there's been a convergence of teachers, leaders, way showers in all of these areas, spiritual teachers, financial leaders, channelers, you know, experts of all different kind of calibers are coming together, so that, because we're all one team. And it's so important that everyone realize that, like, we're not doing this for popularity, and we're certainly not getting paid to do this. And I can speak for every single one of us. We are doing it selflessly. And also what I've noticed is that as a person that does roundtables with quite a few different types of people, and as a person that's done quite a lot of divine feminine roundtables, and then have mixed it up with the brothers, I've found that the brothers get a lot more hate and a lot more intense skepticism. So the amount of emails I got about the brothers that I was doing the round tables with was unprecedented compared to the dodgy emails I was getting around the feminines. So I think that's quite interesting, food for thought, because, you know, these people that we're doing, no one's had a perfect past. Like, we're all human. And, you know, I mean, I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I've pretty much kept to the straight and narrow, but I can't speak for the men that have had, you know, they've had their fingers in certain pots. And I accept that. I accept that some of the people that I've done round tables with may have had a questionable past. I accept that. But I know from my own discernment, which I trust implicitly and explicitly, I know that they've turned good. And what they're doing now is a selfless service for humanity. So I think I'll just leave that there.
That's so well said, Jen, and I resonate with everything you said. And I would agree that the emails that I've had warning me about people that I'm doing interviews and roundtables with have been directed towards our male spiritual teachers, the brothers out there, if you will, rather than, I mean, the women. And I also feel that people who connect with us, who write to us and say, oh, I just saw that you did an interview with so-and-so and I need to warn you about them because of this, this and this. These people, in my opinion, I've had multiple emails like this about many people. I know you have. So many people I've done roundtables and interviews with. These people are not being nasty. They're not trying to stir up trouble. They genuinely believe what they are seeing. They're using their own resonating and discernment that obviously isn't as fine-tuned as it could be, let's say, but they believe what they're saying. So when they write to us, they are trying to help us. Some of them have actually got quite a good basis in truth, coming from the premise that they hold. That doesn't mean the person they're talking about is a bad person, but it may be. It's the same with Trump. People will say, well, look what he said about women. No one's denying that he has, you know, said some unseemly things in the past. But that doesn't change who he is and what he's doing. Everything you said, Jen, you know, the guys that you've done round tables with, no one's saying they haven't had their fingers in certain pies or pots or whatever, and that they may have had a questionable past. That doesn't change the fact that they are on the path of right and good now, that they are doing their best to help, even if you don't resonate with every word they say. So to see one of us on a interview with them or a round table with them, in a lot of people's eyes is discrediting us. I have actually had people say, now I've seen you connect with this person, I can't listen to you anymore, Magenta, which is a real shame. But that's because they truly believe that the person I'm connecting with is controlled opposition, is dark. And some of the light workers as well are perpetuating this themselves. And those with a following are perpetuating this as well. One really, I can think of one really huge sort of misinterpretation, which was obviously said in the best of intentions, and that was one of the spiritual teachers had seen an interview with David Icke speaking, and David Icke on the video had gone through a little bit of static. You know, sometimes when you edit a video, it'll go a little bit wobbly and out of focus. It'll be a glitch in the edit, a glitch in the filming. And she was putting it out there that this is proof that David Icke's a reptilian, which is just, you know, and so many people believe this. People think that if you glitch out, I mean, I've had people write to me saying, your face went funny. Is there a demon behind you? I heard a really strange noise. Yeah. I think there's a demon there. Well, it was actually a motorbike outside, or my fan was on, or, you know, so I think I understand that people are on high alert on every level. But if you go to this sort of, oh, there's a demon everywhere, oh, every little thing, you know, this butterfly here, it's a sign of Montauk, that means I must be part of the deep state, you know, and I'm trying to hypnotize people and brainwash them. I've known about this for many years because my father was a hypnotherapist. So right from when I was young, my dad would tell me stories about how he would get this. Obviously, he wasn't online. There was no internet then, but people would actually find out that he was a hypnotist and avoid him, or they'd come up to him, they'd talk to him with their eyes down like this, or they'd look over here. And he would actually sort of say, why don't you look me in the eyes? Oh, no. And he would find out afterwards that they'd said things to other people. Don't look him in the eyes. He'll hypnotize you. And my dad told me this when I was a child. So I'm fully aware of these high alert, ungrounded states, let's say. One really needs to actually ground oneself and think, look at this person as a whole. And it's all about fear. If it's not fear to do with the whole virus thing, or fear to do with the vaccines, it's fear of the teachers and the people and them glitching on videos in case they're really a reptilian. We've really got to ground ourselves in reality here. Not to say that these things aren't actually real, but we need to know how to place them and how to view them. I don't know a single spiritual teacher out there who isn't being attacked on some level by someone. I know that there are hijacking, but a lot of the hijacking in the spiritual and truth communities are the keyboard warriors that go out there to attack you publicly. They're paid to do so, the shills, because they know what a huge threat the spiritual, the light worker and the truth communities are, especially now. I saw a post, someone sent me a post on social media only yesterday. Some guy had written this huge spiel about light workers voting for Trump and how dangerous they were because they're so deluded, thinking he's a savior and a hero, and they are missing the point of all these dreadful, awful things that he is. I ignored it at first. I thought, oh, it's just another person. But something was saying, it wasn't the 9, just this feeling like, go and look again, go and look again. So I went and looked at this guy's profile, and he's actually got a following. He's got all this stuff spouted all over his social media about money, dollars for this and dollars for that, which is a slight red flag. And I'm not saying he's controlled opposition himself. I'm not saying that, but it wasn't a heart-centered presentation. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to actually, it was an open letter to all light workers who are voting for Trump, basically. So I decided to do a reply to his open letter, and I've put it up over my social media. So this is just one example. So what else did I want to say? Oh, yes, you were saying, Jen, about the connection between us all, regardless of all of the different areas we're in, sort of following on from you know, what I was saying about that. And the 9 have recently said to me, you are entering your most challenging times on Earth since the beginning of your known history. So this is since prehistoric times. This is the most challenging time on Earth, but also you're most connected. So we have both of these going on. And I think anyone who's in that higher dimensional, multidimensional presentation, they can feel that. And it's wonderful how, you know, the truthers and light worker leaders in the field and the healers are coming together. I've had people write to me for a decade begging me to get together with all the other light workers, and actually people getting angry, like, why haven't you got together with, say, this person and this person? They're all well-known individuals in the sort of spiritual movement and truth movement. Isn't it time you got together with them? This is your duty to get together with them. And I would sit there and think, I know that this will happen, but it will happen organically. I'm not going to send an email to every single say, hey, I'm Magenta Pixie. Let's all get together and have a great big gathering somewhere, because that's forced. It will happen organically. And it's started to now. Nobody decided to get together. It's all just happened, and it will increase. So yeah, Becky, any comments on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back a little bit. You know, it reminded me when you're talking about it is the fear factor. It's people's inherent fears, perhaps fears of their own shadow side. It does go back to doing one's own shadow work. But, you know, I about 20 years ago, I moved to a village, and I had young children at that stage. And just because I liked to go out for walks in nature and forage a little bit, you know, collect mushrooms and berries and things like that and make food from stuff I foraged, and just because I'd done a spiritual healing course and was able to do feel energies and actually helped a few people, and predicted a couple of pregnancies, which wasn't perhaps the wisest thing to do, but I did it. I was very quickly labelled a witch in the village, and it had an impact on all the friendships and relationships I made, and people were very wary and frightened of me. Not everyone, but people just were. And it's a shame, because I didn't have any, I wasn't nearly so wise back then about how I should project myself to people. I was just being myself, and I thought, if you're just yourself, then people will accept you. But people make judgments out of fear of the unknown and what they don't understand. And that can completely cloud actual truths. And, you know, going on from that, when you said that people send you emails, oh, you know, I see you did a podcast with so-and-so. Did you realise they're this, that and the other? Some are well-meaning and some aren't. but all are based on actually lack of real knowledge and understanding of a person. A lot of people who say stuff, you know, about us, they never met, don't know us, and it's just hearsay from what they've heard someone else, and oh yes, it's based on gossip rather than any truths. And anyone who then takes it a step further and decides that they want to do an orchestrated attack on a particular member of the community, it makes one wonder what the motives are, because they're not heartfelt, they're not heart-centered. They might be heartfelt, sorry, they're not heart-centered, and they're not actually based on truth. They're based on willful misconceptions and spreading of. So that's, you know, that's, I've seen all aspects of it, and I don't want to name anything in particular, but where we as individuals need discernment, it's just to sort of be aware. And I have to be honest, I'm very heartened to see that absolutely the majority of people that I connect with on a daily basis, and who write into me, people are actually do have great levels of discernment. Some don't, and that's fine. You know, everyone, each to their own journey, to their own decisions, to their own judgments. It's all just part of a path. And that, you know, as people say, that there's as many routes to source or God as there are people here on earth, or incarnate or disincarnate in the multiverse. We've all got our own route, we've all got our own way, and it's better that we just do focus on what resonates well with us, and we do focus on what feels like truth, and we do spend the time to discern. And discernment means to connect with one's own inner intuition. So you're not just listening to your mind chatter, you are connecting your heart, your mind, and your gut instinct. And I've spoken about this before, but it's just so true. To really connect with your own inner self, to be able to connect with your own higher self and with source, and the collective that all that is, you need to go within, and you need to spend time doing that and refining that channel. And that is just so different from listening to what someone else has said about someone, and oh yes, oh that sounds terrible, oh I'll give them a wide berth. You know, there's a really big difference, and I think that's what discernment is.
I completely agree with you. And it's interesting you mentioned about being called a witch because you were foraging for mushrooms and berries. And I had something similar. I also lived in a little village around 20 years ago with my brother. My brother and I moved into this little flat, and we were just starting to wake up spiritually. It's when I first started channeling. And we would go down into the village, into the sort of main center of the village, and go out in the evening, and we sort of made friends, and some people were following us and coming back to our flat, and we were giving them spiritual teaching. And when I first started channeling, I'm sort of practicing my new channeling on all these unsuspecting newly awakened individuals. But gossip got around the village, and little villages are very prone to gossip. Everybody knows everyone else. Everyone knows Flo around the corner and whatever she's doing, and everyone knows who's about to split up and who's having an affair with who. I mean, that's what villages are like in the UK. I can't speak for any other country. But the rumor that actually was spread around is that my brother and I were actually in an incestuous relationship, and that we were actually taking people into our flat. We were actually beheading them and sticking their heads on poles outside our flat. So if you were to drive up past our front garden, you'd see all these people's heads on sticks, and people were sort of avoiding going. My brother and I just couldn't believe it. It's such a horrific story. And of course, there's no sticks. We were having people back for a cup of coffee and talking about love and meditation and alignment, and people were so scared of it. And so this is 20 years ago. So I think all three of us, obviously in our own way, have been prepared for this time of craziness. and so that we can come into that sort of calmness, that alignment, that balance, and be able to see it. And you know, the 9 do tell me that all the star seeds who are moving into that adept space at this time will have had similar journeys in their own life. And I agree with you, the majority of people I speak to, especially in the spiritual communities, have really, really good discernment. But there are obviously those newly awakened who are learning about this and who are listening to others. I've seen it on forums. You know, someone will say something about so-and-so and they'll say, oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, my goodness. And they'll believe it. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like, it's a real big red flag for me if, like, a truther starts exposing another truther publicly. Like, it's just, it doesn't sit well with me. Like, I'm very, very privileged to have close relationships with a lot of high-profile people, and I really, really respect the people that will come to me independently and individually and say, Jen, I've got this going on, I'm a bit worried, and let's look into this. I have full respect for that. But someone using their massive platform to expose people that in my eyes are doing such goodness and such greatness for the world, that's a huge red flag for me. And so I would invite our new awakening listeners to meditate on that, to see when you see that message, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel excited? Does that make you feel like safe in the world? Does that make you feel like your heart is expanding? Is that a message on a soul level to you? Because if it is, it's going to cause you to expand, it's going to cause you to grow. Or does that message make you feel like actually it makes you want to shut down, it makes you feel scared, it makes you constrict back into a lower frequency? That is where your discernment is really, really needed. So as someone that's been on the path for a very, very long time, I'm well oiled in the spiritual path, I would say really, really use your discernment around people that are using their platforms to personally, individually expose one person or another. That is a red flag to me. Now, also, I was going to go back to something that you said earlier, Magenta, about so much of, you know, we get all these messages from people. This is not big spiritual leaders exposing other people. This is just the messages that we get. We constantly get messages. Oh, have you heard about this and this person? Oh, don't trust that person. Now, really, those people that are sending those messages, like, where is that coming from? Because often I feel that there's like that you're wearing glasses that are very, very cloudy, and that actually you're not really perceiving clearly. And I think everyone, that's something that we need to look at. Like, how are you perceiving reality? Are you perceiving reality from a space of clarity and alignment, or are you perceiving reality from a space of fear and judgment? Because when we're perceiving reality from fear and judgment, in our holographic version of reality, that is real. That is 100% real to us, you know. But as someone who's kind of like on a high frequency, if you bring that energy, we're gonna be like, that's not actually real to us. That's not really resonating with us. So I would just like clean the lenses of your perception, you know. No, we're a team, like Magenta said, like we're a team. We're on the team that is taking our world back from the deep state. That is what is going on. And as I said earlier, all of us that are using our platforms, we're losing family members, we're losing friends left, right, and center. We're not doing this for a popularity contest. We're doing this because we cannot not do it. Like, and I was speaking to Magenta when, you know, and it's like, we don't stop working. Our work is our mission. My life is my work. I cannot not work. I cannot not serve. I cannot not be that voice for my brothers and sisters. So, and I think I speak for a lot of us that are putting our neck on the line, you know, and are really, really helping so many people. So again, I'll just say respect where respect is due. And sometimes I think to myself, what are you actually doing for the collective? You're sitting there as a little digital keyboard warrior criticizing the bejesus out of blah, blah, whoever. What are you doing? What are you actually doing? Are you sticking your neck out on the line? Are you losing friends left, right, and centre? So yeah, I get a little bit frustrated with that, and I would just invite everyone to cleanse the glasses of which they are perceiving reality. And finally, I would just like to say, you know, instead of wasting your time trying to expose this person or that person, you have to understand that we're all at different levels of our evolutionary process. And so there will be a certain messenger that is speaking truth, but you're not ready. You haven't quite got to the level of in your evolution to be able to connect with all those codes that messenger is giving you. Doesn't mean that messenger is not speaking the truth. It just means that you don't resonate with that message. And that's a really beautiful thing. If you don't resonate with that message isn't for you, and you can just let go, you can just scroll on by, and you can just leave it for the people that it does resonate with. And so again, we just need spiritual maturity, and I see so much lack of spiritual maturity in these comments. And I think, you know, we're making this video just to help everyone just check in with yourself before you start sending these messages and these comments. What are your intentions? Why are you coming from a fear vibration, or does it simply not resonate for you? And if it simply doesn't resonate for you, that's perfect. The universe is cool with that. Let it go.
Wow, Jen.
Yeah.
You make some really, really good points. And the same with a person. If you don't resonate with a person, it doesn't mean that they're a deep state controlled operative that you need to warn everyone around about. You simply don't resonate with that person for a reason. It could be anything. So move on and find someone you do resonate with. As I've said, I only know one person in the community that is not one of us. Everybody else is. They're just doing their own thing, and some of them might not seem like they are, but there aren't that many cabal members. They're very, very, very in the minority. And you know, when you were saying, Jen, about we're doing this to help people, we're out there doing this because it's our mission, because this is what our calling is. And it's funny, it's like people, why do they think we're out there making videos? Is it because we want fame? We want YouTube fame? We want to get loads of subscribers so that we can like get loads of money? I mean, do either of you want to be sitting making videos several times a week? I mean, I know that there's tons of things I could be doing that I'm not saying I prefer to be doing, because I want to live my mission and I love living my mission, but I've got a ton of books that I'd like to read, fiction books. I'd love to be sat in the garden on a sun lounger with my feet up, you know, reading some fiction book. I haven't touched a fiction book. That's because we're in the middle of an attempted planetary takeover with the world that needs assistance. And when you know that you came here to offer assistance in your way, and you know that that's what you're here to do, you do it. And I think anyone out there making these videos are doing the same thing, even if they are running down other spiritual teachers and truthers. That's because they think there's a reason that they should. That's because they've got their own discernment meter that's telling them something. Maybe they're not supposed to resonate with those people, or maybe their discernment meter is off. But everyone I come across that's out there with a YouTube channel or with some other social media following, as I said, I personally have only come across one individual that I can honestly say is a cabal member. Only one. Out of how many of us? There's hundreds and hundreds of us. Becky, what do you think? Do you think that the actual controlled opposition individuals are much, much less, that the hijacking is less than people think?
Do you know what, Magenta? I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know, because I don't think I'm in a position. Okay, so here's me trying to use my discernment. I think it is very small. Everybody that I have met, I feel are good people, and I feel are trying to share their message with the best of intent. You were asking about, you know, do we do this despite the criticism? And I agree. We do this because there isn't really anything else that we, this is what we came here to do. And, you know, I personally don't find it, I'm not a natural in front of the camera. I'm not a natural verbally, in the sense that I lose my train of thought. It's not something I find honed or fine-tuned yet. But it is the whole work of helping and supporting the community of awake and aware people around the world is hugely important to me. And this is why I help run Connecting Consciousness. And this is why I work mostly behind the scenes on the finer detail of ensuring that the organisation runs as smoothly as possible, with welcoming in new coordinators, helping coordinators connect with their members, and helping members connect with people in their own country, region, or topic groups of interest, help people connect on Zoom, help people connect in person before coronavirus and lockdown and all the rest. In some countries they still can. In Sweden, sorry, I've got fluff. That's another thing. Cat fluff, people think is louche. It's cat fluff. It just floats around the house everywhere with us. Yeah, connecting people who are like-minded, so that people feel supported, so that people don't feel alone in their awakening process. And that's the sort of thing that I am passionate about. Jumping back to another topic, Magenta, you were talking about you know, people wanting to read signs into things, like you were talking about the Montauk butterfly. Actually, you know, I can say this because it's something that a video Simon did very recently. We've had so many criticisms from people directly to us, or from people to each other that we see on platforms. Oh, you know, he was wearing a satanic t-shirt, or oh, he's got pyramids on the side, that must mean he's this, that and the other. Oh, he had some loosh going from his head, collecting all the loosh from people, all the viewers watching. It was a pre-record, there's no one watching. Behind us, the cats are scootling around, and a big sort of fluff of cat fluff just went like this. And so he sort of did the debunking thing. Look, this is the t-shirt that was satanic. Look, if I just scroll down here, it's an Arizona t-shirt, a gift from a friend in Arizona.
We watched that, Becky. We watched that with Simon, and we were laughing our heads off, because I've got the exact same Organite pyramids, and I've obviously had similar things. Like when I put this butterfly up, I didn't even know it was a Montauk sign, you know. And so when we were watching that with Simon, we've watched the last 3 of Simon's broadcasts, and I found them really, really great. I absolutely love the broadcast Simon's putting out. Really resonated with everything he's saying. Really, you know,
he works really hard. And he does his best. And we know that a lot of people appreciate that. And you know, it's like with everything, people can take or leave whatever information you're giving, and so on. He does it with a good heart, with good intent, and with clear intent, and with you know, good solid background. It's not just all made up, you know. I'm just sort of counteracting what people tell us, because it's astonishing. We do this work despite the criticism. It helps a lot of people, and we get a lot of criticism and or attacks. And I think it's the same for everyone in every walk of, in every, I was going to say walk of life, but in this field especially, you're open to criticism. You put your head above the parapet and you're immediately labelled this, that and the other, and open to criticism. And, you know, that is something that I'm very mindful of. That's something that I don't particularly like, but I've got used to it, and I do see it for what it is. And as you say, discernment is the key. It's how about people employing discernment rather than judgment, and really understanding the difference between the two, and then it would help everybody. And also, as Jen was saying, understand. First and foremost, understand that everything that you see and do, and this applies to all of us, you do it, sorry, I've got, again, cat fluff in my eyes, you do it through your own lens, you do it through your own filters, you do it, and they may be clouded, as Jen said, or they may be rose tinted. Whatever they are, understand what your filters are, understand what your blocks are, what your triggers are, what your traumas are, what your likes and dislikes are. And when you understand who and what you really are, then you can see others for who and what they are. But if you refuse to look at yourself, at your own shadow side, at your good points, at your bad points, what your real likes and dislikes are, what your triggers are. And I think triggers is the key, because everybody has them, and it's something that, it's a gift in a way, because when you are aware that you are triggered about something, it means that that is something to look into more deeply. And when you do your own inner work, then you can see more clearly what's going on around you. You are in a better place to discern more clearly everything that is around you, the truth, the untruths, and better able to make decisions on your own actions. And I think what all of us want to do is to be service to others, is to help humanity, and we're all doing it in our own way. We are all human. We are not all ascended masters here on earth. We are still part of the incarnation cycle. You know, we may have come back in to try and help, but when you come in, you get hit by the same traumas and the same experiences as everyone else. And that immediately clouds your judgment, bogs you down, and makes things very hard for you to rise above it. But we're all trying to do that. And I think that it's very important that everyone tries to do that.
Yeah, and as you said, emotion, your own emotion will get in the way of your discernment, because your emotion is what makes you judge. Your own experiences and your own unhealed traumas makes you have judgments. The way to discern is to take the non-judgmental observer viewpoint in neutrality, because that way it doesn't matter to you whether that person is a hijacked, controlled opposition operative, or whether they are a heaven-sent angel. You don't subscribe to either outcome. Then you can see objectively from the observer viewpoint. But you were saying about not being a natural in front of the cameras, and I see that. And you know, this is why I like you being in front of the cameras, because, Becky, there are so many, probably thousands of crystal individuals who are here to hold the frequency with love. They're extremely sensitive. Natural healers wouldn't dream of going in front of a camera. It's not easy for them to do. That's the indigo energy. And you are an inspiration to those crystal individuals, because the fact that you find it difficult and it doesn't come easy actually makes it so much more powerful. And I know that you're used to being behind the scenes, and it's your husband that's out in front of the camera. But when you step in front of the camera, you are giving inspiration to all of those individuals who at some point, no matter how much they want to sort of hide and stay out of it, now is the time for everyone to come forward in the way that they can. So you're an inspiration to those crystal individuals that are here to hold energy, that are here as healers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What do you think about that, Jen? Would you agree? Because you're more sort of indigo like me. And also, Jen, do you agree, or do you feel differently about the fact that the whole sort of controlled opposition hijacking thing is much, much less than we are led to believe in the truth and lightworker communities?
Yes, that does resonate, that it's much, much less. And I loved what you said to Becky, and I think that Becky doesn't realise how inspirational she is for a group of people that, you know, and it's like you are sticking your neck above the line, and respect where respect is due. And I think that you speaking out is just giving a permission on an energetic level for a lot of people to find their voice and to realise that they need to be heard, like the collective needs to hear you. And I always say that, it's like we need to speak our truth, like even if our voice shakes, like that's where we're at now on this evolutionary trajectory. It's especially the divine feminine, because the divine feminine voice has been suppressed for so long that we must find a way to speak our truth, even if our voice shakes. So I take my pixie hat off to you, beautiful sister Becky. So I just wanted to say one thing. I've been having an interesting little thought forms coming in while you've both been speaking, and So I think that there are certain speakers that are really appropriate for the people that are like comatose asleep. And those people, like, I would say, I would put David Icke in that category, and I would put like that new lady Kate that's talking a lot. Now, when these people speak, I don't think they're like stirred up. You're all doomed. There's a new world order. It's coming in, and they never have solutions. So invariably, when I hear them speak, I'm like, okay, I'm okay now. But at the beginning, I was like, oh my God, I'm terrified. We're having a new world order takeover. Oh my God. But he woke me up. David Icke, he woke me up. I didn't know about the reptiles. I didn't know that 911 was an inside job. I didn't know anything about really the language of how you could even refer to the deep state. But he woke me up. He woke me up. Even though he didn't, he woke me up. That are strategically placed by the universe with a specific job. Like, so I don't know her surname, Kate, I can't remember her surname. Like, she's got a really, really massive job, because like God has sent her to the hardcore 3D sleepers, that is like the mask wearers and the, you know, and she's just giving the facts, she's giving the scientific evidence. She's just like, she's got her fingers in all these like 3D pies. She's got a lot of power. She's getting a lot of support. But she's not a person that I would go to for solace and comfort. Do you know what I mean? So I think that there are people that are strategically placed within the awakening community. And, you know, they could easily be seen as opposition. Like those two, they could easily get that sort of like mantle of opposition. But when I tune in, when I listen to David Icke, he's a beautiful man. Like, he really cares. And even though his consciousness, I feel, is a little bit trapped in 4D, maybe going up to slightly higher 4D, like, his heart is so beautiful and it's so pure, and he just wants to serve. So I think we all just really need to check in with our hearts. Like, how do you feel about that person? And it's the same with Kate. Like, I understand she could be seen as opposed opposition or controlled opposition, but she's relentless. She's going for it 24/7, and she's waking up so many people. So I think with this conversation of discernment, we have to understand that certain leaders, teachers, way showers are strategically placed at certain vibrations in order to transmit their teachings to the people that have signed up to receive their teachings. So, and yes, I think that was quite an interesting point. What do you think, Magenta?
I completely agree with everything you said. There are ambassadors for the third dimension, ambassadors for the fourth dimension, placed strategically at different levels because of the different stages of awakening that the people are in. I think you're talking about Kate Sherimani, I think is her surname. Yeah. I personally don't watch her, but I did watch a little bit of a couple of her videos, simply because I can absolutely credit Kate Sherimani and David Icke for being extremely instrumental in waking up my two daughters and my sons-in-law. It wasn't my information that they were looking to. It was too far away from where they were. It's like all this sort of, you know, quantum realities and higher dimensional beings. That was just too much. They wanted to know what's going on in the real world. Kate Sherimani was a huge influence on them. Then they were able to come back to me and look at my material and think, they don't really want to watch my stuff. They don't really watch my videos, but they understand it now. They understand my material. They're not necessarily particularly ready for that yet fully, but they're awake. So someone like Kate Sherimani, yes, she's not controlled opposition. She's living her mission just like we are. And as for David Icke, I think a lot of the light workers and the truthers as well will turn away from him because he doesn't support Donald Trump. His belief is that, you know, all government officials and politicians, they're all the same. Well, he's been in this sort of truth game for years and years and years. He's probably been ridiculed and attacked more than anybody out there. So he's probably come to a point where the thought of someone actually making it into a political position, he just can't subscribe to that, because it's kind of like it's just, there's a part of him that will have given up for that in a way because of the relentless attacks. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have a huge position and a huge place. I would actually suggest to a beginner, absolutely, he's probably one of the number one resources. And I would say the Trump thing is like another layer on top. Just go for the foundation layer. You did say, though, that they don't give solutions. I can't speak for Kate Sheramani whether she gives solutions or not, because I haven't heard her. I know she's giving information. And David Icke is predominantly information. Having said that, he does occasionally give solutions, because he will start talking about opening the heart, understanding your own power, understanding that you're more powerful than the 1%, if you will. So he does come in with solutions. I have seen that with him. What do you think, Becky? I know that you're looking at the clock, because I know that you've got an appointment.
No, well, I wasn't looking at the clock. The cat that I've let in the room with me, she's yowling away under the bed, and I was trying to get her out, so that's why I kept disappearing off to the side.
Regarding some, not necessarily specifically those people, David Icke and Kate Sheramani, but someone who is delivering more of a foundational presentation of the plan on the sort of the dark level, cabal level, and, well, that level really, the third dimensional situation, and delivering truth and information. Would you say that those people have a place?
Absolutely. Absolutely they are. It's like being a reporter, but a reporter for the truth. I mean, the thing is that we've been mind controlled by TV programs and news, mainstream media, which is not telling us the truth overall. And it is serving an agenda that is not an agenda for humanity and us as individuals. So absolutely, people who are, because of where they are placed in the field, whether it's because they are a healthcare worker and they've woken up to what's going on in their field, or because of whether they were in mainstream media like David Icke and they are aware of what's going on behind the scenes there, and then had a spiritual epiphany. Everybody here on earth has their own role to play and has their own experience on a situation, on you know, within their life on planet Earth. And absolutely, people who are reporting what's going on in the 3D world and trying to share the truth out to others, I think it's absolutely key and paramount now. And you know, I watch quite a lot of Camelot TV with John and Arena Mappin, and John is always saying, you know, people, you know, he wishes more people would do this. More people should set up TV channels, should do their own podcasts, should share their own knowledge and understanding, so that everyone gets the opportunity to see where other people are coming from and to learn perhaps just a little bit more. If we are speaking our truth and that truth is genuine, then it is worth sharing, and it will be of value to other people in their journey. And so absolutely. And then of course, you know, people who do the sort of nuts and bolts reporting on the ground, sort of, you know, shedding light on what's happening within the NHS, mainstream media, what's going on with particular topics, that helps people wake up in their own, in that particular field, and then they'll start doing research, and then they'll come across other things, and then they'll come across people like you and other speakers, and who are talking in more depth and have been dealing with these kind of topics and, you know, spiritual awakening and geopolitics and so on for the last 5, 10, 15 years. So it's all part of the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And I agree with what John Mappin is saying when it comes to other people speaking your truth. And if you feel called, if it feels like it's something you want to do, then, you know, get out there, write, if that's the way. If you don't want to speak but you want to speak, give messages in music or artwork or something, do it that way. If you want to speak, just get the camera on. And I do feel that there will be, oh, look at this beauty.
I found her. She's been under the bed yowling, but in a really quiet yowl. So this is Ingamari, my little wild girl. I'm going to just take her out the room, so I do apologise for the interruptions.
No, it's fine. Wow. Yeah, I would say people are going to step up, and I think we will see many, many more individuals come forward, you know, into social media in one way or another. They will have their sort of social media channels, whether it'll be YouTube or whether it'll be some other platform. But the 9 have said that the spiritually aware individuals on this planet will more than double by the middle of 2022. By the summer solstice, or the June solstice of 2022, spiritually aware individuals, activated individuals, will more than double by then. Now that is only, well, it's less than 2 years away. And that isn't talking about those who are aware to truth. This is those who are aware spiritually. Another double. I mean, so where are they all coming from? Well, obviously people are going to step up. So we're going to see more and more individuals speaking their truth and sharing their knowledge. My friend's son, so I've known him since he was about 2 years old. So he must be, I don't know, roughly sort of 29, 30. He just started off by making little Facebook videos, and more people watched just at the beginning of March, just when sort of COVID hit, just talking about what he's seen on he's in the UK, talking about what he's seen on the news, talking about some other, you know, something that someone said on one of the daytime chat shows, or what the government are saying about their sort of little plans, you know, what is it, hands, face, space, and all this business. And he has started.
Oh yes, I saw that we were driving on the motorway the other day, driving towards London, and it said, cover face, wash hands, make space, or wash hands, cover face, make space.
Yes, it's washing your hands, putting your mask on, and keep socially distanced. And they've got little signs for it. So this is like the 3rd slogan, I think, that they've come up with. All this sort of, you know,
it's on the motorways. It's on the motorways, in, you know, the notice boards now. It's.
But this young guy, no spiritual knowing there, particularly, just presenting what he's seeing, and he's got more and more people follow. And of course I already knew him, so I was kind of coaching him through what it's like to have people follow you and how to deal with attacks and all this. And then he started watching some of my stuff to see how I was presenting, and then he would say, well, what are you talking about? And now he started, I wouldn't necessarily say had a spiritual awakening as such, but that has begun to come into his awareness. Just the fact that there's more out there than what meets the eye, perhaps in a more scientific way, but he's now looking at the possibility of dimensions. And I've been friends with his mother for 30 odd years, and she's very, very down to earth, and she thinks I'm absolutely off the planet. She thinks I'm absolutely crazy. And she said she never thought she'd see the day when her own son would start sounding like me. And she says to me, he sounds like you, to the point where he even mentioned the other day the 4th dimension. Shit, I nearly fell off my chair.
Magenta, I'd like to say something about that, specifically about the 4th dimension. And is that, like, a lot of, like, as we spoke about Kate and David Icke, they've got a really, really important role, specifically for the real hardcore sleepers in the 3rd dimension, the comatose ones. And it's so powerful and it's so important. And so I would just say that, like, you know, don't get stuck in the 4th dimension. Like, just don't see that as the end. That these people, they're waking you up and they're exposing what needs to be exposed, and it's so important, their role. But we need to just keep pushing higher into unity consciousness, into really, really, like, solution based consciousness. And so it's just, you know, this is a message for our newly awakened listeners. Like, don't get stuck in 4D. But you're probably not, actually. If you're like tuned into Magenta's channel and my channel, you're probably not. But just know that once you've met the likes of Kate and David that are giving you all the factual information that's shifting you from the 3rd dimension, that there are amazing teachers and guides and your own consciousness that is going to just keep lifting you higher. So don't stay stuck in 4D, because 4D is a very, very, can be very, very distorted, and there's huge, and still it's a realm of polarity. This law of polarity still can play out within the 4th dimension, and it can seem so real, like, you know, but it's not. It's just, it's all temporary, because only love is eternal, only love is real. And then we find that in 5th dimensional consciousness, in unity consciousness. So keep pushing, keep, you know, keep aspiring for that higher dimensional gnosis. I just felt inspired to say that.
Thank you, Dana. I totally agree. I think, you know, judgment is very much part of 4D, as it is of the third dimension, because that is all about polarities. That is all about what is something good or evil. Is it, you know, pretty or ugly? It imposes, the 4D imposes itself on the 3D. It sort of has a power over it, and it creates a matrix around it, which is what affects 3D. But we can blast through that, I think, with working through our hearts, because our hearts are connected to dimensions way beyond 4D. It's connected to 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, 9D, and so on, right to source, which is all encompassing. So yeah, 4D is very much a control dimension.
I would agree with everything you both said, and that's, you know, wonderful information. When it comes to Kate Sheramani and David Icke and people like them, I would say that in the incarnation that they are in, these are fourth dimensional individuals who exist in 4D simply because their thoughts are out of the box. They're not 3D, otherwise they'd be asleep. So they're 4D individuals, but they're not in lower 4D, otherwise they'd be in that trapping system and in that state of fear. They're higher 4D in their presentation as they teach what's happening within 3D. But on a soul contract level, anyone who has come in to guide and teach others and have those that are learning from them, they're all beyond the fifth dimension at a soul level. So those individuals, anyone who steps up to teach, they've already, we would have all chosen, think, well, you know, I'll go in and do the lightworker stuff. I'll be a channel. You can be the 3D one that's telling everyone about the cabal. You can be a nurse coming in to tell everyone what goes on in the healthcare at the time when the attempted planetary takeover hits. You know, you can be, and we would have all taken a role. I mean, it's not quite like that. That's a metaphor, but that's what we would have done. But when it comes to the fourth dimension, it's been a difficult place, a difficult consciousness, because of the hijacking, because it's a place of finite expression instead of the eternal flame, as you were saying, Jen. That's where the cabal have chosen to place the consciousness templates that hijack. But a lot of these have been cleared over the last several years, and the fourth dimension is starting to open up, and it's upgrading. As we're upgrading from 3D through fourth into fifth, all the dimensions are upgrading. And for the fourth dimension, the higher fourth dimension, is a beautiful place. But you're right, Becky, when you open the heart, and the heart is involved with all of the decisions through that observer place, that's when you go to the fifth dimension. And that's where there's no judgment. You don't want to judge your brothers and sisters. That's when you see us all as a team. Regardless of whether you support Trump or not, or regardless of what country you're in, or you're not going to want to run anyone down. And if you do sort of flag someone or out someone, like I did recently, and I didn't do it actually via YouTube, I didn't do it via a video, it was simply social media post. I still have respect for not doing that. I don't want to run people down and out them and say, hey, look, this person is cabal. I don't want to do that. Well, my father would say that's ugly behavior. That's what my dad would say. And it's not what I've been taught to do by him or the nine. But when the person is potentially someone who may be stepping into the political field in a place that would not be in alignment with the Trump position, and someone who has a following and is outing the letter that comes after P as a dark satanic structure, then it's my role as someone who understands and sees that picture to actually at least try to plant seeds in others to just have some discernment. And when I posted this on social media, there were a few people who were like, no, I don't believe it. I didn't give this person's name. As I said, I gave clues. But some were like, I can't believe it. That's a shock. But the majority were saying, I already knew this. You just confirmed what I already knew.
I think it's because you're pointing out their change in stance and perhaps and their teachings and the fact that they are saying so and so is not good. And I just think, I can see why you've done it. But I think that when we work through the heart, we have a greater understanding of ourselves, and we have a greater understanding of others and where they're coming from. And it enables us to have compassion for people, for situations, which is why I encourage people to try, if they want to develop themselves spiritually, if they want to start doing their own inner work, is to start having a connection, with your own heart, your own heart space, because that is a magical place within you, and we all have it, where we can start. If we start making that connection, then it opens us up to our potential, our infinite possibilities, an excitement, a joy. If we make that connection with our heart center, then life is exciting, and it just becomes more positive in many different ways. And if we forget to do so, and we get bogged down with the negativity and the nitty-gritty and and all the stuff that gets us down, then we're losing part of ourselves. We need to be mindful that if we're feeling negative about people, if we're feeling negative about situations, then we are losing that contact within that beautiful part within ourselves. And it's a reminder to get back to that place and to carry on developing it.
Yes. Because
that's where we'll learn and we'll grow.
Yes. And about the people that are writing to us, sort of warning us about people that we've been in round tables with or interviews with. I obviously I can't speak for you two, so maybe you could comment. But for me personally, I'm very grateful for people trying to assist me in letting me know what they know. But sometimes they'll say things like, I'm surprised the 9 didn't tell you, as if to say, poor Magenta, you're oblivious to this person's energy, and why haven't the 9 warned you about them? And obviously what I'd like to say is I'm in alignment with the 9, and when it comes to who I do an interview with or a round table with, at this point in my 12-year journey online, I have not ever entered into a roundtable discussion or interview with anyone that I knowingly feel to be controlled opposition. Everyone that I have entered into a roundtable or interview with in the time that I've been online is someone who has an open heart and is absolutely doing what they believe to be the right thing. So whilst I appreciate all the advice, I am able to discern. And if I get it wrong, then that's my issue to deal with. But
But also Magenta, you haven't, I understand you haven't got it wrong, but sometimes you can do, and I'm referring back to John Mapping because I've been watching a lot of his stuff. At the beginning of every program, he has a caveat. I'm not, I don't necessarily agree with everything that people are going to discuss. You make up your own minds. You take from it what you will. Yeah. We should be able to have the right and the choice to join in podcasts with people who we don't really know much about, who we'd like to find more about, who we reserve the right of judgment on, and who might be very good at sharing ideas and communicating. I think it is wrong to cut ourselves off from connecting with others just because someone has said, do you realize they're this, that, or the other? Because it cuts out possibilities, it cuts out potentials.
I completely agree. And whilst I wouldn't enter into an interview or a round table with someone that I knew was actually controlled opposition, I wouldn't want to come into that person's space.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that everyone that I do a round table or interview with that I know is living their mission and has an open heart. That doesn't mean I agree with everything they say, the way they say it, how they say it. And I've now, created a little disclaimer because of all the constant warnings I was getting from everyone I was connecting with. I've created a disclaimer, which I'm going to pop up before I show this chat that we're doing, and that's nothing to do with you two, but it's going to go up on all of my roundtables now, just to actually show that. So, you know, how do you both feel about people writing to you and giving you these warnings? Are you grateful to them for their assistance, but do you feel the same as me, that you are able to move into that discernment yourself and you have that trust about the people that you're connecting with?
I feel the same as you, Magenta. I mean, I get a lot of emails from people. It's part of the work I do. People connect with me via, you know, social media and emails and so on. Some are given in good faith and well-intentioned, and I may or may not reply. In fact, I usually just don't if it's about somebody else. Quite a few are given with an energy of negative intent, and for that I just think to myself, I see you. I see this message for what it is, and I ignore it and I reject it. And that's how I go about my work, if I'm honest.
Yeah, same, absolutely same. What about you, Jen?
I appreciate the love and concern that is very often behind those emails, but I think to myself, I haven't got this far without having like really on the money discernment and intuition. And so like I have such a deep and innate trust in who I am and my soul path that I just know that I wouldn't align with the toxic, nefarious soul entity. I'm really confident about that, and I get approached to do lots of podcasts, and I always say yes, because I always use my discernment. And so the ones that I do agree to, I've got a big, massive yes in every cell of my being, and that's how my soul consciousness communicates to me. It's a personal, individual, highly developed relationship that I have with my soul consciousness. So sometimes when I get those messages, I'm thinking, you don't know me. You wouldn't actually write that. If you knew who I really am, you would just innately trust my own discernment and my own path of destiny, which has aligned with these particular brothers and sisters. But I understand that very often the motive is very pure and it comes from a very loving place. And I do appreciate that, and it doesn't really bother me. As I said originally, the thing that bothers me is when people with their large platforms that are stuck in the sort of lower 4D consciousness start then exposing other people and you know, debunking other truthers. That is such a massive red flag to me. But getting those little messages, I think that they're coming from a place of love. But this is an opportunity, I think, for all of our listeners to just hold back on those messages. Like, God is in control. Like, really, God is in control here. And we've all carved out our destiny, just like Magenta said earlier. I really resonated with what you said about, okay, bye, love. Sorry, Finn's going out. Sorry.
Bye, Finn.
Bye, Finn. I really resonated with what you said earlier about how ultimately all of us teachers, way showers on a soul level are in unity consciousness, but we've made a strategic plan, incarnational plan to incarnate at a particular vibrational level. So and I loved what you said. I got so many goosebumps when you said that, because it's so true. So people like Kate and David, they're such wonderful examples, but they would have strategically placed themselves within that fourth dimensional realm to be the sort of, like, because I didn't sign up to that role. I was like, I'm going to be 5D conscious. I'm going to be all about the unity. I'm going to be all about the codes. And that's where I'm going to be strategically placed. But it reminds me of this really beautiful like bit of prose that I read, and it said that for the people that sign up, for the people that sign up with the mantle of teacher, leader, way shower, etc., just when you're about to incarnate, when the soul is about to like make its descension from source energy, it moves through, metaphorically, it moves through a particular room. And in that room, there are like tethers of light. Now, most people, as they move through, will grab one tether of light, and then they'll have that tether of light to keep them aligned with source energy. But people like that have signed up for this public role, we'll grab a few of those tethers of light, so that when we incarnate, we've got a lot of kind of like resources and sources to tap into. And that really resonates for me, and it's such a beautiful way to explain our role, because I know for a fact, because of what happened to me on the mountain, like I got overdosed with God consciousness, so I signed up for like to really get a massive load of those, you know, those tapers of light. So and I think all of us we've all done that, you know, and so we are a team, and I'd love everyone to just to understand that we're placed strategically, but we're all part of this great awakening team, and it's so beautiful, and I feel so privileged, deeply privileged to be part of it.
Oh, that's lovely, Jen. I had something quite similar regarding sort of taking the light, a similar experience through a dream sort of 20 years ago. But one other thing about David Icke and the whole sort of 4D, 5D, David Icke was quite instrumental in my own awakening, not necessarily my awakening, but in the sort of next experience. And it wasn't his information, it wasn't what he was saying, it wasn't his books. I actually met him. I went to one of his workshops back in 1993, and at the end of the workshop was all about love and loving others. It was totally on the higher vibrational level. There was no sort of he wasn't teaching this sort of darker stuff back then. This was just after the days when he'd appeared on Wogan, you know, and everyone was ridiculing him for wearing his lovely purple shell suit, which I went and got one, and because I wanted to look like him. I remember watching him, and he's talking about love and I'm the son of God, and all my friends were just laughing and ridiculing him, and I just thought, no, he's right, and they're misunderstanding him. So he was very instrumental in my awakening. When I actually met him, I went up to meet him after the workshop, and as I was talking, I looked into his eyes and he looked into my eyes, and I just felt a kindred spirit. And that was 5D unity consciousness that I saw in his eyes. I've actually stood next to him and looked into his eyes. The same with David Wilcock, and he has all of these attacks and people saying, oh, he says all this stuff and he's been hijacked and infiltrated. Even if there has been some infiltration there, it's not come from him. You know, this is an open-hearted, pure soul. With David Icke, we have an open-hearted, pure soul with a little bit of frustration. Maybe that's going now, because finally he's being vindicated after all these years in his own personal path. You know, who would ever thought that he could stand up in front of all these people listening to his every word, when you go back to the early 90s and the sort of ridicule he was getting. But David Wilcock, both of them, I've stood next to them, and I have felt that Christ consciousness, Christ light energy, and that kindred spirit. I know that both of them are like me. They're star seeds. That's what's important. They're star seeds. And we need to hold the star seeds unity. Running one another down is playing into the hands of the cabal. As I said, they don't need to get their operatives in our group if we're fighting amongst ourselves. So regardless of whether we agree with every word one another says, let's honor one another.
Yeah. Thank you, Magenta.
That's a really good way to end, I think.
I think so, but I'd like to ask you both just tips as to newly awakened individual, or somebody who's having trouble with discernment, or somebody who's listening thinking, oh, well, I thought some of the people that you've done round tables with were actually really nefarious and awful, and now you're saying that they have open hearts. Okay, so what tips do you give to these individuals who obviously would like to have some understanding within discernment? The other thing I'd want to say is, Becky, what you were saying about getting these messages, and many of the time you just don't reply. I'm the same, and I was just thinking, next time we get a message like that, send them this video. Just send them this video. Because this is how we feel about it.
Perfect.
That is a good idea.
I love it.
So yeah,
I forgot the question.
What about tips?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, tip.
Jen, do you want to go first? Because I'm just going to have a think about this. Because for me, it's always going back to my shamanic roots and
tips for discernment.
Yeah.
Go on then, Jen. Fire away.
Okay, so my tip for discernment are how, when that person speaks, how does it make you feel? Does it bring you back to your center? Do you feel in alignment? Do you feel a sense of expansion within your heart consciousness, within your soul consciousness? Are you getting goosebumps? Do you feel a little bit emotional? If these are all somatic signs of your soul consciousness communicating to you that this is a message for you. Or do you feel scared? Do you feel afraid? Do you feel like your vibration is kind of like getting lower? Or do you feel like your vibration's getting higher? And so this is where discernment lies. It's about how you feel, because you have made a personal soul contract to work with that person. I know as a teacher, I've made a specific and personal contract to work with the people that I'm meant to work with. It's highly orchestrated, and it's like a military operation on a soul level. So the people that I'm meant to work with, they feel that. I got this beautiful message yesterday, and it just said, Jen, whenever you speak, even if I'm feeling really, really ungrounded and upset, just hearing your voice brings me back to my center. So that is a clear indication that that is a messenger that you've made a soul contract to align with. So, like for me, Magenta's one of my messengers. When she speaks, I just feel so excited, and I feel like my consciousness is raising and my consciousness is expanding. And so I'll keep going back. I'll keep watching your videos. Do you know what I mean? It's like we've all got our messengers, and we've all got our people that we have soul contracted to work with, and it's about how it makes you feel inside. I hope that's clear.
Then I completely agree. I actually don't think I could say it any better than that. I can add that we do get hundreds of messages. You know, I get many emails from people, our CC members, who say, absolutely love listening to your podcasts, absolutely love this, love that, love hearing your voices. And it is exactly that. It is, you know, if someone is going to be drawn to something and it really helps them, then it's something that they will enjoy. If they're feeling negative about something, or if they're feeling fearful, then that's sort of giving warning signs. And it is learning to trust your intuition and not just deal with knee-jerk reactions and quick snap judgments and hearsay. It is connecting to yourself, your center, and finding out what your truth is, and then being able to put that in context with what you how you perceive the world around you and the people around you.
Thank you, both of you. Becky, if somebody wants to join Connecting Consciousness, how can they do that?
At the moment, go on Simon's website, and there's a page for joining us.
Okay,
so,
and we'll put the website.
simonparkes.org.
Thank you, and we'll put the website in the description link. Jen, if somebody wants to follow you and watch your videos, listen to your teachings, what can they do? Okay.
So I would love to invite everybody to please come and join me for the equinox transmission that will be taking place on the 22nd of September. And this is a global ceremony, and we have between 300 and 500 people signing up. We're working with our specific grid points. We're creating the 5th dimensional grid. We're empowering the 5th dimensional golden age grid. But it's so powerful. I'm facilitating it, and it's incredible work. And we're going to be working a lot with the transition from carbon to crystalline, and working with all of the Arcturians, all of the beings that are assisting in this ascension. We're going to be working with them to bring more and more light energy into our forms. We're also going to be working with the activation of the 12-strand DNA, which a lot of us, it's come online, but we're going to be empowering the 12-strand DNA codes. So it's very powerful for your own personal evolutionary ascension, but it's also very powerful for the collective. We'll be doing a lot of work with the children as well, because we always focus on massive global issues that need to be addressed as well. And it's a wonderful way to get to know me and come and join the community, and it's amazing. So I'll post the link to connect with the transmission. Thank you, Magenta.
Well, thank you both. This was a really interesting chat, and I hope it's helped individuals, and at least it's put our perspective across from where we're coming from. And if people are wondering why we are still associating with others that they see as nefarious, then maybe they can sort of understand our perspective a little bit more. And I hope it's helped others in assisting with their own discernment skills, because as I said at the beginning, this is crucial right now and will be more crucial as we go forward. This is discernment on all levels, especially with mainstream sources, but we need that with the alternative news and truth community as well, and the spiritual community, and throughout the religious systems, and everywhere we go, we're being, I won't say tested, that's not a very nice word, but we're having these life's challenges. And I think we have to thank those that are out of alignment and are presenting as teachers, because that's how we can find our own discernment. If we can't see an out of alignment individual, how can we then spot the one that is in alignment? So everyone, even those who may be actually delivering skewed messages, if you will, they are still assisting in the overall tapestry of our collective awakening. So I hope that's helped everyone. And I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to us all today. And we will all be back with more videos. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having us on. Bye.
Please share this video. We love you. Bye.
Bye.